Hey guys, one of my favorite ways to enjoy coffee and dessert when we're in France is with a café gourmand. This is a relatively new invention in France and it's become quite trendy. Basically what it is you get a cup of coffee served on a plate, then with like 3 to 5 different desserts, little mini desserts, so they're usually only a bite or two. So I've often wondered how to take this idea back to the States to be able to use it when entertaining at home. And I've always been daunted by the thought of making 3 to 5 different desserts until I realized it all came down to the planning. So I'm gonna show you how to put together a café gourmand to entertain at home with that isn't gonna take you hours in the kitchen. Let me show you how to put it together. So the first thing you can prep, really the weekend ahead of time or 2 weeks out, is the cookie dough for our little cookie at the end. So this is a delicious buttery cookie that's filled with pistachios and dried apricots. And it's the perfect little finish to nibble with the coffee. So in an electric mixer, you're going to combine a cup of butter and a cup of sugar. Now, if you live here in the States, I say to use salted butter, but if you're outside of the States, I would use unsalted. It's just that the butter here in the States has a lot more flavor than salt to it, but outside of the States, I know that salted butter can be pretty salty. Then once it's nice and fluffy, you can add 1 egg and 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla extract, and you can beat that together. Then in a smaller bowl, you're going to combine 3 cups of flour, 3/4 teaspoon of salt, and if using unsalted butter, I would do a teaspoon of salt, and 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder, and you can whisk that all together. Then you can add the dry ingredients just in thirds to the butter mixture, beating all the while, and then your dough is basically done. So at this stage, we're going to add 1/3 cup of unsalted roasted pistachios that you've given just a rough chop to, and 1/2 cup of diced apricots. Then you can remove the dough from your mixer, divide it into 2, and then roll it out into the shape of a log. And then you're gonna place it on some parchment paper, roll it up in the parchment paper, and give it a good twist. And then with this dough, I usually keep one in the refrigerator that I'm gonna bake off and use for my café gourmand. And then with the other one, I just write the date on it with a Sharpie and pop it in my freezer. Then the morning of your party, you can bake off your cookies. So you just wanna cut your cookies about 1/4 inch thick and place them on a cookie sheet that's been lined with parchment paper. And then I always bake off more than I need so that I can offer some cookies as well as the little cakes on a cake stand because people always want more of those. And then you're gonna bake the cookies at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for anywhere from 12 to 15 minutes, just until they're set and golden brown. Okay, one dessert done. Now for our second dessert. So I'm gonna show you how to make a delicious cheesecake lemon mousse. Now this is something that can be done the day before your party. I like to serve these in these little glass jars because not only are they cute when you go to present the dessert, but I also find that they're super easy to store because they have little lids to them. So you can make it ahead of time and just close the lid and you don't even have to cover it. They're just all ready to go. So in the bowl of an electric mixer, you're going to add 8 ounces of cream cheese, 1/4 cup of powdered sugar, 2 teaspoons of fresh lemon zest, and a teaspoon of vanilla extract. And you can go ahead and beat that all up until everything is nice and combined. Then you want to take it out of the mixer and put it in a large mixing bowl. And then at this point, you don't even need to clean out your mixer. You're going to add 1 cup of heavy cream, 1 tablespoon of powdered sugar, and 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla extract. And you want to whip that on high just until stiff peaks form. Then you can add this whipped cream to the cream cheese mixture, just in thirds, lightening the cream cheese mixture as you go. So you kind of just want to fold it in. You don't want to beat it too hard that you're kind of flattening the whipped cream. You want to create that really nice, light, mousse-like texture. Then at this stage, you can transfer this mixture into a pastry bag fitted with a star tip. And then if you're using the little jars, you could go ahead and fill them right away. So I'll leave you a link in the description where I got these little jars. I just found them on Amazon. They're in my Amazon shop if you want to check them out. And then I like to add a little bit more of the lemon zest on top as a garnish. And then right before serving, we're gonna pop a little raspberry on top, but I don't like to do that now because it'll get all smushed. So just go ahead and add the garnish, fasten the jar, and pop it in your fridge. Now, if you weren't using the little jars, you certainly could use a dish or a saucer or a ramekin. I would just keep the cream cheese mixture in the pastry bag overnight, just to make it a little bit easier to serve. You can then pipe it right away before you serve it. Okay, second dessert done. Now, for the third dessert, I'm gonna show you how to make these really delicious, rich and chocolatey mini cakes using a mini muffin tin. And this dessert you can do the morning before your party. And it's super simple. You don't even need the electric mixer. So in a large mixing bowl, you're going to add 2 ounces of dark chocolate, a half a cup of unsweetened cocoa powder, and a half a cup of hot boiling water. And you want to let that sit for about 5 minutes. This will give that cocoa powder the opportunity to bloom, which will help the flavor of the chocolate really become more pronounced. And then to that, we're also going to add a cup of white sugar, and you can whisk that up, a third of a cup of vegetable oil, and then you're also going to add 2 eggs, one at a time, whisking in between each addition. And then we're also going to add 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. And then you can set your chocolate mixture aside. Then in a smaller bowl, we're going to add 3/4 cup of all-purpose flour, 3/4 teaspoon of salt, and 3/4 teaspoon of baking soda. And you can whisk that all up. Then you can add the dry ingredients to your chocolate mixture. And then once it's all combined, it's ready for the muffin tin. So I'm using a Silpat mini muffin mold for this recipe because these cakes are so fudgy that it makes it super simple to just push them out from the bottom. But if you're using a regular muffin tin, I would just make sure that you grease it well with some baking spray because these cakes are a little bit sticky, but that's what makes them so good. And then because this batter is so runny, I like to pour some of it out into a little Pyrex pitcher and use a 1-inch mini cookie dough scoop. It's just a little bit easier to kind of get in and fill the muffin tin than actually trying to wrestle with a big bowl. And then you're gonna bake these little cakes at 425 Fahrenheit for anywhere from 12 to 13 minutes, just until they're risen and set and dry on top. Then you can take them out and allow them to cool completely because these cakes are very delicate and fudgy, and if you try to remove them right away, they will get all crumbly on you. So they really need to cool in their tins for at least an hour. Okay, so now the moment we've all been waiting for, it's time to assemble our Café Gourmand. So I like to use a rectangular plate for this because I think it works really well when you have 3 desserts. Now, if you don't have a rectangular plate, I'm going to show you how to do it with a square plate or a round plate in just a sec. So on one side, you're going to add your espresso. Now, if you don't have an espresso machine, you could also just use an espresso cup, but fill it with just really strong coffee. That would be perfectly fine too. Then you can remove the chocolate cake from the tin, and I like to dust it with a little unsweetened cocoa powder because I think it makes it look just extra fancy. It sort of takes it from muffin to cake right away. And you can place that next to the coffee cup. Then take out your cheesecake mousse and add a raspberry on top. And I also like to use a little coffee spoon, like those little espresso spoons work perfectly to get inside the jar if you're using the jar. And I like to stand the spoon just upright. I think it's sort of a fun way to serve it. And you can put that in the center. And then you can put your cookie on the other side of that. Now, if you don't have a rectangular plate, you could definitely use a round plate or a square plate. You would put the coffee in the center and then take the other desserts and put them around. And then you'll see you kind of have this leftover space to the right. So it's really begging for kind of 4 desserts. But rather than go out and make 1 more dessert, I mean, you really could, but who wants to do that now that we've already made 3? I like to serve a little store-bought ice cream. And if you have a little porcelain spoon, something you might use like for dumplings or soup, it looks really cute to take that 1-ball cookie scoop that we used for the muffins and take a big scoop of either espresso ice cream, coffee ice cream, pistachio, something that's just a little bit special and fancy, and pop it right there on the spoon. And the concept really is when somebody puts this down in front of you, you're gonna go right for the chocolate because that just looks like the most decadent, tempting thing. And I think we're kind of conditioned to eat left to right. So after your guests eat the chocolate, then it's a really nice sensation to then have the cheesecake mousse with the lemon and the raspberry because it's kind of refreshing. And then at that point, you're kind of ready to take a sip of the coffee, and then you have a perfect little cookie to nibble with the coffee. So it really works out perfectly. Now, if you did want to go for broke and add 1 more dessert to your Café Gourmand, a cannelé would be a great addition to this little platter. And you can click this annotation here, and I'll see you over there, and I'll show you how to make them.